Good morning and good afternoon. Welcome to another episode of Before Coffee. It is mucking fun day, and boy, am I ready to have fun because it's already been a Monday, hasn't it? It's already been a Monday. Tired, cranky. Let's go ahead and I'll remind you that this is the new show where me and my dad look at news stories 10 minutes or 15 minutes before we start. So we just looked at our headlines. We scoured the internet trying to find any story worth reporting, to be honest, because today has been a bit of a shamble. Don't forget to subscribe, turn on those notifications so you'll know when we go live and post a video. And let's get into those headlines. Today on Before Coffee, thousands protest over tourism in Spain's Mallorca.
And individual donors flood Act Blue with donations for Kamala Harris.
Azerbaijan's president pledges to help French territory secure independence.
Microsoft releases recovery tool to help repair Windows machines hit by CrowdStrike issue. And Curiosity finds sulfur crystals on Mars.
You've got to be kidding me. Hello Kitty is not a cat. Creators reveal.
It is National Ice Cream Day. Well, yesterday was National Ice Cream Day. Sorry. Today is National Junk Food Day, July 21st.
My favorite
2024
day.
On Before Coffee. Yeah, junk food.
All right, let's get into our first news story. As I think about all that junk food I'm going to eat today. I've been making jibes at Spain as protesting tourism, but now I'm actually going to cover it in a story, which I think, as somebody who's a victim of Spanish conquistadors, you could say, historically, not recently. They haven't been coming to my house and beating me up. Now, in the past, right, in my family history, they were being Spanish and all that stuff. And I always find it very funny for countries who almost conquered a lot of countries, influenced them, forced them to speak their language and practice their religion and cultural practices, get angry when people come to their country to see it. Because maybe you should have just stayed in your country if you don't want people to come to your country. Anyways, so that's what's happening. A lot of people are protesting in the streets of Mallorcan capital Palma in a huge demonstration against mass tourism. About 20,000 people from Al Jazeera. A rally on Sunday saw demands for changes to a touristic model that protesters say is harming the Spanish Mediterranean islands. Here it is. Under the slogan, "Let's change course and set limits on tourism," the demonstrators formed a sea of brightly colored flags and banners as they surged through the city's most visited streets. Demonstrations was the latest in a wave of protest against tourism in Spain. "Your luxury is our misery," read one placard. Another placard said, "This isn't tourism phobia. It's numbers. 1,232,114 residents. 18 million tourists." Yeah, but they're not all there at the same time. They're not like, imagine 18 million right there, you know, all at the same time. I think it's every year they get 8. The protests were called by some 80 organizations and social groups who want limits to be placed on excessive tourism in the Balearic Islands, whose main 3 islands are Mallorca, Menorca, and Ibiza. Well, Ibiza is a famous raving club site. They say the current model of tourism has stretched public services to a breaking point, harms natural resources, and makes local access to housing increasingly difficult. Hawaii goes to the same stuff. Well, everyone's going to this when it comes to tourism. But there's so much money in it. How do you stop doing it? Organizers claim that 50,000 attended the protest. Police estimates put the numbers closer to 20,000 per. Last year, a record 17.8 million people visit the Balearic Islands, both from the mainland Spain and abroad. The number of visitors is expected to be higher this year. Mass protests across the archipelago's 3 main islands were seen at the end of May, during which many thousands of marchers hit the streets to demand steps to limit over-tourism under the slogan, "Our island is not for sale." From a practical point of view, it is a legitimate economic activity. But as an economic activity, it should ultimately be regulated in the same way as hotels, said architect and urban planning expert Jose Maria Esquinga, who told TVE Public Television he believes tourist rental flats should require the approval of local residents association. It should be local property owners who set the rules of the game and decide whether or not certain formats are acceptable, he said. Manuel de la Calle, an expert in the field of tourism and business, said imposing a tourist tax could be part of the solution. It is one of the possible solutions that could be put in place. It will not reduce the flow of tourism, but it will generate resources that can be driven into tourism management or other avenues to help the local population, he told. Now, maybe people are asking, this stuff probably has been happening for decades, centuries maybe. People going to these islands for a visit, for a vacation. Why is it a problem now? I have a theory for you, which I think most people will agree with. It's because of COVID. For 2 years, maybe even 3 years in some places, nobody was visiting anywhere. Nobody was going anywhere. Okay? I remember when COVID lockdown first started because one of my lectures got canceled and me and some other person and the professor were the only ones to show up. I didn't know it was canceled because they only sent an email, I think 10 minutes or 30 minutes before, and I live an hour away from Amsterdam, so I was already in Amsterdam by the time I got the email. So I was like, well, I'm fucking going. But when I was walking around Amsterdam after this first kind of shutdown started, it was so quiet. Now, Amsterdam is famously incredibly tourist heavy. All the shops there are, knick-knack shops. Buy our I Love Amsterdam keychain and some bongs or whatever. Most of the stores in Amsterdam were that. Most of the stores were tourist traps. And after COVID, a lot of people realized, wait a minute, that fucking sucked. It was so nice for those 2 or 3 years where it was just us dammers in Amsterdam walking around, enjoying the city, going to bars and not having to worry about tourists. So I think that I finally, secured a theory here that that's why so many places are starting to be incredibly anti-tourist. It's because they know what it could have been. They know what it's like to live in the place when there aren't 18 million people visiting every year. Just nicer. And maybe that's probably why they moved there a long, long time ago before tourism was an issue. Oh, this nice little island. It's so nice. And now it's just full of tourists who are, I'm sure, and sometimes really disrespecting there. And they're tired of it. So, there's your theory. There's your news out of Spain. They're hating that tourism only because they know what it's like to not have it.
Is it off to my story?
It.
Oh, okay. Good. I can get a throw.
I have a lot of short stories. All my stories are short, so.
Okay. All right. So in U.S. news, the big news yesterday was Joe Biden dropping out of the presidential election. And although seemingly a bunch of idiots think he resigned, so there's always that. But anyway, he just stopped running because he threw all his support behind Kamala Harris. And this is from thehill.com. ActBlue rakes in nearly $50 million in 7 hours after Harris campaign launch. Small download, who wrote this story? Lauren Sforza. Little Lauren with a bunch of consonants run together in her name. Small dollar donors gave nearly $47 million on ActBlue in the 7 hours after Vice President Harris' campaign for president launched Sunday afternoon. The Democratic fundraising platform announced Sunday. As of 9 p.m. Eastern Time, grassroots supporters have raised $46.7 million through ActBlue following Vice President Harris' campaign launch. This has been the biggest fundraising day since 2024 cycle. Small dollar donors are fired up and ready to take on this election. ActBlue wrote in an update post to social media on platform X. The figures of total amount raised on the platform not only donations to the Harris campaign. Harris campaign is raising money other ways too, right? President Biden announced just before 2 p.m. on Sunday that he would be stepping aside in the presidential race and quickly offered his full support for the endorsement of Harris. Act Blue previously said the first 5 hours of Harris' campaign platform raised more than $27.5 million through small donor donation. The New York Times reported that Sunday marked the single biggest day for online Democratic donations since 2020 election. The Times said the previous record was set the day after Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg died in September 2020 when Act Blue raised about $73.5 million. Of course, it was a full day, was it not? Here we're reporting the stuff from 9 o'clock last night, which is a full 12 hours ago. So it's probably around 100 million before the end of today. Yeah. So we might have a new record. Key Democratic donors are also throwing their support behind Harris in the wake of Biden's decision. Defendant J. Trump, the convicted felon, had eaten away at Biden's fundraising lead in recent weeks. And big dollar donors, who are the people that forced him out. Don't forget these old rich assholes.
Yep.
Big dollar donors reportedly froze some 90 million from the president's re-election campaign amid calls for an exit race. That's what forced them out. Don't forget it. It was these big money donors.
Yep.
That don't give a crap about you and me. They only care about their bottom line and how it makes them look. I'll never forget the fact that a bunch of big money
and being able to manipulate
big money douchebags. Yeah.
Like
but we're all going to rally behind Harris, they say. I'm sorry, I can't hear you very well. Your mic is not picking up or something. What'd you say?
Oh, I was just saying the rich people only care about somebody they can manipulate with their money, which would be Trump. So that's why.
Right. They're probably going to kick loose this money now.
Yeah.
They're just nervous. I'm sure they want to beat Trump, but they're just like, oh, we're so, whatever.
Fools.
Bedwetters, they call them. I call them bedwetters. Right? They're like, oh my God, I know. What do I do? In the hours since Biden's announcement, Democrats have rallied behind Harris as a likely nominee for November's election. Harris said later on Sunday that she intends to earn and win the Democratic presidential nomination. And in a related story,
for a whole.
Yeah, okay, she's vice president. She's always.
Let me put my 2 cents here, right? I think it's really funny that she needs to earn being president or being a nominee for president. Joe Biden was also just vice president before he became president. Yeah, sure, he was a senator for whatever, billions of years and whatever. I'm just saying, like, why does a vice president have to prove that she has to earn something? She's been vice president this whole time. You think they just sit there going like, oh, I hope the president told me to do something. I'm not going to do anything myself. Vice presidents are out there doing their job. They probably do.
No, they have to earn votes.
So, stop acting like they've not.
I'm just saying.
New. You know, she's not new. Been running a whole
but she said she had to earn it
as vice president.
Right, but she still has to earn votes. That's what she's talking about, earning votes. Not just in the nomination, which she does not have the nomination just because she was like it's really unfair that people who have already voted don't get to say, but at least she's the one they voted for, right? They didn't just vote for Joe Biden. They know Joe Biden's old. I mean, if you're an educated person, you know that the president or just anybody could just drop dead, right?
That's the point of the vice president.
If you don't know that, I don't know what the hell you're doing voting in an election. That's all I got to say. State Democratic Party chairs on
voting for them.
I'm sorry?
The thing with the vice president is you're also voting for them. She's on the sign. Right?
True, which is why
you're voting for
the Republican ticket is so scary.
Yeah.
Like scary as in the guy at the top's a con man and dishonest, and the guy who's got his vice president is unqualified in any possible way to be in charge of anything. So he's only been a senator for 2 years. Before that, he was nobody. He was a guy who wrote a bad movie, or a bad book that ripped on the Appalachia as being a bunch of ignorant redneck morons, made them all look like fools. And he's basically from Ohio, like grew up in middle class, and he acts like he was in this trailer park somewhere. It's a total fraud. But anyway, so we're going to go on to the Reuters story, which says all state Democratic Party chairs endorse Harris. These are the people that attend the convention, by the way. State Democratic Party chairs on Sunday threw their weight behind Vice President Kamala Harris to be the party's new presidential nominee to run against convicted felon defendant Jay Trump. The chairs held a conference call after President Joe Biden announced he was stepping aside as the party's candidate. Following President Biden's announcements, our members immediately assembled to unite behind a candidate who has a track record of winning tough election, who is a proven leader on the issues that matter to Americans: reproductive freedom, gun violence prevention, climate protection, justice reform, and rebuilding the economy, said Ken Martin, president of the Association of State Democratic Committees, in a statement. That person is our sitting Vice President Kamala Harris. Reuters reported earlier that a group had backed the vice president, with one source saying there was full support for her being on top of the ticket. Many Democrats quickly backed Harris to run the party's presidential nominee against defendant Trump in the November election, but some powerful party members, including former House of Representatives Speaker Nancy Pelosi, stayed quiet. Okay, well, she's former House of Representatives Speaker Nancy Pelosi. Again, we're passing the torch, folks. That's what's going on here. And maybe welcome for a lot of people, maybe scary for a lot of people, but either way, you got a prosecutor running against a felon, right? You got somebody with a uterus running against somebody that's just going to take away your reproductive rights, including contraception. Forget abortion. They're not even going to let you have contraception. That's what they're running on. That's what they want to do. Believe them. They're not lying. Anyway, back to you.
Okay. Then let's go ahead and talk about Azerbaijan. And we haven't talked about them for a while after all that business that happened in the border. But this is from Eurocitiv with Reuters. Azerbaijani President Ilham Aliyev pledged on Saturday, July 20th, to help France's overseas territory secure independence, the latest in a series of incidents pitting his ex-Soviet state against Paris over long-running conflicts in the Caucasus region. Wow, way to throw some freaking things at an ex-Soviet state. We're still holding on to that, are we? Aliyev accuses France of interfering in its affairs over its contacts with Armenia, against which it was waged 2 wars in 30 years, linked to a dispute over Baku's breakaway region of Nagorno-Karabakh. In recent months, Azerbaijani leaders have focused on France's South Pacific territory of New Caledonia, gripped by weeks of violence over the objections of indigenous Kanak activists to a contentious reform. Aliyev made his latest comment at a media forum days before the opening of the Olympic Games in Paris and just after the staging in Baku of a congress bringing together pro-independence groups from New Caledonia and other French territory. "We will support you until you are free," Aliyev told the forum, citing French territories that he said were still subject to colonialism. "Some countries are still suffering from this. The Comoros Islands, Mayotte, are still under colonial rule. It's been our duty to help these countries liberate themselves from this revolting remnant from the past." Uh-oh, that's the one problem Azerbaijan did. Don't they know only Western European countries are allowed to stick their nose into people's business? If you're from not the Western Europe, you're not allowed to do that. What do you think you're doing? That's the only reason this is a big deal. If France was doing it the other way, right? Oh, we're going to help the Azerbaijan territory of Nagorno, whatever, separate. Good job, France, for helping those poor people over there from getting out of the hand of the colonists. But when it's the other way around, how dare you? These people are French. Unless they're brown. Then they're not French. They're just immigrants. Generation immigrants. Anyways.
They're the ones that helped us win the World Cup.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Earlier this week, an initiative group staged a congress in Baku attended by pro-independence groups from New Caledonia and other French territories, including Corsica and the Caribbean and Pacific Islands. French media accounts of the meeting said participants sharply criticized French authorities and Azerbaijani delegation was invited to visit New Caledonia. France accused Azerbaijan in May of meddling and abetting arrest in New Caledonia by flooding social media with what were misleading photos and videos targeting French police. Azerbaijani authorities accused France of bias in favor of Armenia, efforts to achieve a peace treaty to end the 3-decade conflict, and in signing defense contracts with authorities in Yerevan. Azerbaijan expelled 2 French diplomats last December. A few months ago, they described Qatar as a cunning state. Cunning means the quality of skill of being clever at planning something to reach your goals, even by tricking others. Lately has been emerged that Azerbaijan has also resorted to cunning strategies to punch above its weight. So, this has always been a problem with the established powers. They don't like when somebody else wants to join the club, and they start getting really, really antsy when it looks like they're trying to. That guy wants to also be on our level. We can't allow that. You're punching above your weight. You can't support what you want to do because you don't have centuries worth of colonialism behind you like the French do, and the Spanish and the UK. They don't have that. They're too busy, trying to get out of under the yoke of freaking, well, actually even before that. I don't know what Azerbaijan was doing in the 1500s. I guess I should look that up real quick. What was Azerbaijan doing in the 1500s? Well, the Western Europe was conquering and subjugating everybody in Americas and the Caribbean, and also in Asia. Don't forget, the French were in Vietnam and the Dutch were in Indonesia. So it's not like it was only the Americas that were affected by these things. According to, they were an empire. They were part of the Safavid Empire until 1300s. And then, let's see. Okay. So they were part of Russia. They were part of Russia. They were occupied by Ottomans in the 1700s. And they don't really have any news from like the 1500s. They were under Abbas the Great, a Persian Shiite. So at some point, they're always part of an empire, whether it was a Russian empire, Ottoman empire. They've been part of an empire. So I think they have a very close relation to the idea of being a victim of colonialization. So that's probably why they're able to pull their weight around and say, we're gonna help the French colonies from escaping under the yoke of the French, because we know what it's like. We're now our own country, but we used to be part of empires, and they treated us like shit. Something, I don't know. But there is my really short historical, cultural perspective on that. Onto your story.
Or back to my story already. Okay.
Oh, you have some short stories.
I'll be sending you a video in a second after I finish my news updates. Well, there was a big hack over the weekend, a big failure, which actually started on Friday, I believe, because I was doing stuff that was affected by it, applying for jobs and so forth. Yep. So this is from TheVerge.com. Microsoft releases recovery tool to help repair Windows machines hit by CrowdStrike issue. Microsoft has released recovery tools designed to help IT admins repair Windows machines that were impacted by CrowdStrike's faulty update that crashed 8.5 million Windows devices on Friday. Well, I called it a hack, but it is a hack. It's like you taking down your operating system and don't work no more. The tool creates a bootable USB drive that IT admins can use to help quickly recover impacted machines. While CrowdStrike has issued an update to fix its software that led to millions of blue screen of death errors.
Oh God!
Not all machines are able to automatically receive that fix. Some IT admins have reported rebooting PCs multiple times will get necessary update, but for others, the only route is having to manually boot into safe mode and deleting the problematic CrowdStrike update file. Microsoft's recovery tool now makes this recovery process less manual by booting into Windows PE environment via USB, accessing the disk of the affected machine and automatically deleting the problematic CrowdStrike file to allow the machine to boot properly. This avoids having to boot into safe mode or a requirement of admin rights on the machine because the tool is simply accessing the disk without booting into the local copy of Windows. If a disk is protected by BitLocker encryption, the tool will prompt for the BitLocker recovery key and then continue to fix the CrowdStrike update. The recovery tool has been updated to include the new PXE boot option and even a boot to safe mode option that requires IT admins to access BitLocker-enabled devices without a recovery key. You'll need to access the account with local administrator rights on the device if you pick the safe mode option. Microsoft also has a separate recovery step available for Windows virtual machines running on Azure, and the company has also published recovery steps for all Windows 10 and Windows 11 devices over its support site. So there's all of the Microsoft fixes for the problems they had over the weekend that, I know, stranded travelers all over the country, for instance. So yeah, lots of problems with lots of computers and lots of places. In other technology and science news, if you want to call it that, this is from jpl.nasa.gov, the NASA official website. NASA's Curiosity Mars rover viewed sulfur crystals within a crushed rock. NASA's Curiosity Mars rover viewed these yellow crystals of elemental sulfur using its MAST camera, or MASTCAM, on June 7th, 2024, the 4,208th Martian day, or SOL, of the mission. The discovery marks the first time this mineral has ever been found in pure form on Mars, nicknamed Convict Lake after its location in California's Sierra Nevada. This collection of fragments is about 5 inches across from left to right. The color has been adjusted to match lighting conditions as the human eye would see them on Earth. These crystals were found after Curiosity mapped... let's do this again. These crystals were found after Curiosity happened to drive over and crush the rock several days before on May 30th. The rover later used an instrument at the end of the robotic arm called the Alpha Particle X-ray Spectrometer to determine the composition of the rock. Scientists have seen many kinds of sulfur on Mars. The region Curiosity found this rock is, in fact, known for being rich in sulfates, a kind of sulfur-based salt that was left behind as water dried up on this part of the red planet billions of years ago. It isn't clear what relationship, if any, the elemental sulfur has to other sulfur-based minerals in the area. Elemental sulfur consists only of pure sulfur atoms, unlike that sulfur bound to oxygen and sulfate is an odorless material that on Earth is created by a variety of different geological processes, including volcanic and hydrothermal activity. Curiosity's team doesn't yet know which process would have formed the elemental sulfur found by the rover, but they're searching for clues in the rocks that surround the area. Curiosity was built by NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, which is managed by Caltech in Pasadena, California. JPL leads the mission on behalf of NASA's Science Mission Directorate in Washington. Malin Space Science Systems in San Diego built and operates MASTCAM. Okay, that's really interesting technical stuff. At the end, a bunch of story about Mars, and we're finding sulfur. Why is it significant? Well, how did this pure sulfur form? Was it volcanic activity? Was it water? Was it some kind of liquid that formed this crystal that caused the sulfur to isolate itself and form crystals? Well, anyway, there's your science news for today. Your nerdy computer news for today, and back to you.
Nerdy. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people are wondering what the hell, how this happened. Why is my life, some people's lives were upended because of just one computer problem, one program. And as you said earlier, right, this is proof of how weak we are to structural issues on computers. Instructural? Can't think of it. Not instructural.
Influential?
No.
Influenced by? Susceptible?
What are bridges? Bridges are part of
Infrastructure?
infrastructural problems in computers. There we go. Infrastructure problems. Okay. Anyways, enough of me not remembering words. Let's talk about something that I've known for years, but I guess it's time for the younger generations to discover this information. Hello Kitty is not a cat. He never has been, ever. This is by David Morcant on Euronews Culture. The famous character celebrates her 50th anniversary this year after appearing on a children's coin purse in Japan after her creation in 1974. Now, Hello Kitty's creators have made some revelations, saying she's not a cat and actually a cat of her own, and a boyfriend to boot. The world is a confusing place and a frequently scary one, and what's needed now more than ever are stable securities and cast iron guarantees that we can fall back on in turbulent times. We did not need this. This is David, by the way. He's always had a bit of an attitude. In honor of Hello Kitty's 50th anniversary, which officially occurs on the 1st of November, the character's flagship company, Sun Nero, has dropped a bombshell that's leaving everyone perplexed. I'm pretty sure they did this in its 25th anniversary, too. The popular cartoon character created by Yoku Shimizu is apparently not a cat at all. Hello Kitty is not a cat, asserted Jill Koch, the Senior Vice President of Marketing and Brand Management at Sanrio on NBC's Today Show. Wait a meowment. She's not a cat. What is she? That's why I said meowment. That's what he wrote, so I'm going to read it that way. She's actually a little girl born and raised in the suburbs of London, continued Koch. She had a mom and dad and a twin sister, Mimi, who's also her best friend. Whiskers, cat ears, and called Kitty. Not a cat. Sure. And no mouth to confirm or deny this news. How convenient. Oh yeah, that's true. Hello Kitty doesn't have a mouth. It gets weirder. As Hello Kitty, whose actual name is Kitty White, weighs 3 apples and 5 apples and is 5 apples tall, has her own cat named Charmy Kitty, a boyfriend cat Daniel, and hundreds of friends. Her core message is friendship, kindness, inclusivity, and part of what has helped her transcend borders, languages, cultures, and that's understandable to everyone, according to Cook. Cats transcend borders too, just saying. Created by Sanrio employer Yuko Shimizu in 1974, Hello Kitty first appeared on a children's coin purse in 1975. In the subsequent decades, the wholesome character has become one of the most recognizable characters in pop culture, with toys, cartoons, and clothing generating more than $80 billion to date for Sanrio, and even inspiring a controversial song by Avril Lavigne. Oh yeah, Hello Kitty, I did it. Yeah, I remember this. The annual retail sales tailed to $5 billion last year. But back to the human revelation. Fans are not finding the news hysterical. They're not real fans. I'm sorry. I'm not even a fan of Hello Kitty. I know it wasn't a cat. So, fake fans! Fake fans! One wrote on Twitter, "It's a girl cat and nothing will ever change my mind." Which another replied, "For my own sanity and childhood, I'm sticking to that." One user added, "I have never seen a human being with real-life whiskers and cat ears. That is not a cat and I won't be gaslighted by this." They wrote in caps, by the way. I've seen plenty of humans with cat ears and whiskers. Like, you can even draw them on your face, or you can, like, do a little, like, some sort of face glue and glue them to your face. Anyone seen Cats, the movie? Plenty of humans with cats on. I know, there's supposed to be cats in that. I have never seen a human being with that. You've seen plenty of human beings. E-Man. Yeah, okay, this person's just trolling. Clearly the catastrophe is not going down well. However, it's not the first time that Hello Kitty's true identity has been revealed. Yeah, it isn't. I remember this happening years ago. Christine Ariano, an anthropologist from the University of Hawaii, has spent years studying Hello Kitty and even wrote a book, Pink Globalization, Hello Kitty's Trek Across the Pacific, published by Duke University Press last year. According to Los Angeles Times, a Kitty scholar unearthed the fact that Hello Kitty was in fact a girl years ago. She's never been depicted on all fours. She walks and sits like a two-legged creature. She was also privy to other little-known facts, including the fact she happens to be a Scorpio with a penchant for apple pie. Well, that's not British. You should like some fish and chips or something, right? She's supposed to be British. She ain't British, is she?
Some squid or something.
Yeah. No, squid would be Japanese.
Oh, okay.
Japanese people love squid snacks. Well, it's a popular thing in Japan. Added that Kiddo's unreadable features, the absence of a mouth for starters, has helped cultivate a character's following. Hello Kitty works and is successful partly because of the blankness of her design. That people say that possibility of range of expression. Give her a guitar, you can put her on stage, you can portray her as is. That blankness gives her appeal to so many types of people. Cats are appealing too. Just saying. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to cover this story because I
Not
didn't know
cats.
it needed to be news. But yeah, this is news for everyone. They didn't know that nobody knew that Hello Kitty is a human. She's always been a human. She's never been a cat. She's just a girl who likes dressing up like a cat. Similar to how lots of children wear onesies to dress up as different animals. She's a child, by the way. So this is not weird. It's not crazy. It's been happening. People dress up as cats. And dogs and wolves and all sorts of things. Welcome to the world. That's my story.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing else there.
Of course, the only one true test to see if a cartoon character is human is if they've got 4 fingers or not. Because if you notice, the Flintstones, the Simpsons, 4 fingers, not 5.
Well, the problem with her is she just has the glove hands, right? The thumb and the mittens. You don't have the mittens.
Just leaving it a mystery for everyone to solve. A humanoid-like creature. Again, cartoon characters, just for your references, not real. Absolutely not. And Scooby-Doo
Don't tell them that.
is a talking dog.
What are you doing? There's a person on Twitter having a mental breakdown because they found out she's not a cat. So can't start.
Well, I always remember that the Scooby-Doo conundrum, where the people sit around going, wait a minute, they solved that crime. That crime couldn't have been committed like that. Here's this and that and this and that. And you go, dogs can't really talk either. That's another fault in that cartoon. Dogs can't talk. Forget the crime.
Because there's so
it's
many
a cartoon.
Things people get in so their head about media, right? They'll be like, this isn't realistic. It's fake. It's a film. Everything that happened isn't realistic. None of this is real. They did mirrors and illusions.
People watching comedies that are obviously a farce. Like you're half an hour into, like, say, Monty Python, the Holy Grail, or Naked Gun, and you're trying to make sense of the plot. Wait, what's the plot here? It's like, it's a farce. Stop trying to make sense of it. This is what farce means. I don't understand. Why is that rabbit biting off people's heads? Rabbits can't do that. It's a farce. Anyway. So yeah, people don't get it. That's cool. I like controversy about cartoons. It keeps my mind active. But we're on to this day in history. I did send you a video that's historic in nature. So, on this day in history, let's open up the big old history book. Well, it's not big and it's not old. It's just Britannica.com on the internet. On this day in 1456, Hungarian forces led by János Hunyadi, not the car, Hunyadi, including an untrained army of peasants, won one of the most remarkable victories in the history of the Turkish wars, resisting the Ottoman Sultan Mehmed II's siege of Belgrade. So, that happened in 1456. 1812, on this day, the Duke of Wellington defeated 40,000 Frenchmen in 40 minutes, all by himself. Amazing. At the Salamanca, Spain, during the Peninsula War. Salamanca, Spain. That's what it's named, Hector Salamanca. Remember Breaking Bad? 1923 is the birthday of Bob Dole, so he's 101 today, if he was still alive. A U.S. Senator from 1968 to 96, Republican congressional leader, and his party's candidate for presidency in 1996. 1923, American baseball player Walter Johnson became the first pitcher in Major League Baseball to strike out 3,000 batters in his career. His career record of 3,508 strikeouts stood until 1983, which Nolan Ryan broke that. Nolan Ryan threw 100 miles an hour.
Yeah. Consistently.
1933, On this day, American aviator Wiley Post, one of Will Rogers' best friends, completed the first solo flight around the world. He covered 15,596 miles in 7 days. First flight in 18 hours. 7 days, 18 hours, and 49 minutes. That's really hard to do nowadays. Around the world in 7 days, try to get those connecting flights, right?
No way. Here's a layover for 20 hours in freaking Turkey or something. Go see the sights, I guess.
Also, Wiley Post famous for dying in the same airplane crash that Will Rogers died in. They were both in the same plane. In Alaska. Yep. Years later. I don't know how many. 2 years later, actually. 1943, led by U.S. General George S. Patton, Allied forces took Palermo on the northeast corner of Sicily, giving them a strategic foothold from which to invade mainland Italy during World War II, and that's when we really started winning the war. 1946, a violent Jewish right-wing underground movement in Palestine, the Irgun Zvailini, blew up a wing of the King David Hotel in Jerusalem, killing 91 soldiers and civilians. Wow. Oh, good old terrorism. Woohoo. Good old scumbag terrorism. 1959, the sci-fi film Planet Nine from Outer Space, starring Bela Lugosi and directed by Ed Wood Jr., considered by some of the most inept director in film history. Well, that's not fair. Was released in American theaters. Described it as the worst movie ever made. It became a cult classic. Hey, the movie Ed Wood was great. To me, that was Johnny Depp's best performance. That was really enjoyable. And it was in black and white. I got a thing for black and white movies. So. In 1992, Colombian drug trafficker Pablo Escobar escaped from police custody as he faced transfer from La Catedral, a luxurious prison that he had built, to a more secure facility. He remained a fugitive until December 1993 when he was killed during a shootout with law enforcement. Oh, Pablo. Escaping from jail. Now my computer's going slow. 2011, terrorist attacks on Oslo and the island of Utøya in Norway resulted in the deaths of 77 people. Anders Behring Breivik later confessed to the attacks. What one? Terrible day. 2013 on this day, Prince George Alexander Louis of Cambridge, the first child of Prince William, Duke of Cambridge, and Catherine, Duchess of Cambridge, was born in London. So, Prince George was born to Prince William and Kate Middleton. Catherine, Duchess of Cambridge, that's her title. People with their silly, genuflecting towards the royal family. Just call them by their names. Bill and Kate. Right. And our featured event in 1977, Deng Xiaoping was reinstated after falling from favor during the Cultural Revolution in 1966 to 76. Deng Xiaoping returned to power in his day in 1977 after the Chinese Communist Party reinstated all of his former high posts, including that of the vice premier. Key. Our feature biography, Frederick Wilhelm Bessel, German astronomer, born July 22nd, 1784, and died March 17th, 1846, at the age of 61 in Prussia. He was born in Minden, which I imagine is in Germany, or Minden, might be, right? Other birthdays today: Oscar de la Renta, Dominican-American fashion designer. Albert Brooks he was born in 1932, that Oscar de la Renta. 1947 is the birthday of Albert Brooks, American actor, comedian, writer, and director, whose original last name, before he changed it for show business, was Einstein. So Albert Einstein, born in 1947. Happy birthday to Albert Brooks. Also, Willem Dafoe's birthday, American actor and Wisconsinite, born in 1955. Willem Dafoe, happy birthday. Selena Gomez, birthday today.
Nice.
How old do you think Selena Gomez is today? American actress and singer. How old do you put her at? Do you think she's older than you or younger? Let's say that.
The same age as me, I thought. Not?
Nope. She is. No, she is. Today, she is turning 32. Okay, she was born in 1992. Happy birthday to Selena Gomez. And what national day it is, I aired and I told you what Sunday was, which was National Junk Food Day. And also National Ice Cream Day. So yesterday would have been the day for junk food. Today is something different. This is National Hammock Day, which is cool. I'm going to go put up my hammock. It's a storage, but National Mango Day. Oh, I love me a mango. As they call them in Spain, mango. National Penuche Fudge Day. I don't know what Penuche fudge is, but it looks delicious and it'll probably give me all kinds of zits. National Fragile X Awareness Day. This one I do not know. Fragile X Awareness Day. I guess we're going to be aware of it now. Each year on July 22nd, National Fragile X Awareness Day celebrates those impacted by Fragile X syndrome. Fragile X syndrome is a mutation of the FMR1 gene in its most common form and inherited intellectual disability. It affects men more than women. While a person may have the same mutation, sometimes they do not have any apparent signs. Those who do show signs have mild to severe symptoms. Physical, intellectual, and behavioral symptoms may appear. They may vary between males and females. Women tend to have similar but mild symptoms or none at all. And the symptoms would be those ones I mentioned above. You are physical, intellectual, and behavioral symptoms. That could be just about anybody, man. All right, so those are your days for today. And I guess I'm going to have me a mango and lay in my hammock. What do you think?
You can have that was quick.
What do you think?
I haven't downloaded this video.
Yeah, there weren't that many things today.
I don't know why.
Yeah.
It hasn't downloaded.
Well, I can continue to read on the other thing I skipped over, which was National Penuche Fudge Day.
Try again.
Penuche is pronounced P-Penuche. Hey, I pronounced it right. It's Penuche, and I pronounced it right my first try. And it's said to have a Portugal origins, becoming popular in New England during the 1700s among Portuguese whaling families. Oh, the whaling families. The family that whales together, well, they stay together. Archie blows. This sweet treat is considered the oldest fudge ever created. This fudge-like candy includes brown sugar, butter, vanilla, and just a little whale. No, just kidding. There's no whale in it. Brown sugar, butter, vanilla, and milk. No sugar in this fudge. I mean, no chocolate in this fudge. Just sugar, butter, vanilla, and milk. Crazy. Some people add pecans and other nuts, especially if making candy is a form of penuche. Lighter in color than the traditional fudge, penuche tastes like maple thanks to the brown sugar. All right, there's your fun little fact about really high-calorie snacks.
Really high-calorie stuff. Okay, now I got it downloaded. Let me switch it over.
Okay, you ready for the end of Those Are Your Stories for Today on July 22nd, 2024 on Before Mangoes.
Okay, this has been Allison here from the Netherlands, where it has been raining and it's been really humid, so that's really fun. I'm slotting this thing in here as we get ready for tomorrow, which is going to be Good Tuesday News Day. So check that out. Don't forget to subscribe if you're not already, so you can get notified when we go live tomorrow, so you can find out all the good news that is happening out there, instead of, well, today was kind of just general news. We never cover the bad news per se. We cover,
actually, there's a lot of good news today.
Yeah, there's a lot of good news today as well. So without further ado, we will see you tomorrow. Take care out there, and here is our mic drop moment.
And now a page from our Sunday morning almanac, July 22nd, 1933, 85 years ago today. The day aviator Wiley Post made history.
With one eye.
It was a time of heroes.
Oh, God.
Aviation was very much an adventure. And
For that was the day he arrived in New York in his plane, the Winnie Mae, after completing the world's first solo round-the-world flight, circling the globe in 7 days, 18 hours, and 49 minutes, making just 11 stops along the way.
Can't fake that.
To cheer
That's
America's
wild.
newest idol, showering tons of confetti, miles of ticker tape.
Yeah, remember ticker tape parades? When's the last time you saw those?
A Texas native who lost an eye while working in an oil field, Wiley Post set
Wow.
many other aviation records as well.
So on, I'll see you in about 6 days.
He was the first to pilot a plane at an altitude of 50,000 feet,
Wow, he must have passed out.
and the first to get a boost from what was back then a relatively unknown band of air currents called the jet stream. To survive at that altitude, he wore the very first pressurized aviation suit. But Post's daring do caught up with him in 1935 when he crashed an experimental
no.
plane while on a journey through Alaska, killing both himself and his world-famous passenger, the comic Will Rogers.
So sad.
Wiley Post was just 36. His historic plane, the Winnie Mae, is now in the collection of the National Air and Space
Oh, it looks
Museum.
really good.
in
They've been-
Yeah, it was one of them planes over our
Even
head
that
when we
in
toured
pristine
that.
condition.
Be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and notify buttons, and follow our other channels, Toxic Alley, History of Gravy, and Scratchy Old Records.